Good afternoon, everyone. How are we all doing today? My name is Edgar Miranda, and today I will be sharing with you guys my intergenerational project that I've been working on for some time now. Yeah, let's get to it. So, a lot can be said, with the way that someone carries themselves as it is the byproduct of the many stages in life. With this project, I definitely wanted to see the difference amongst these three generations that I had in front of me, which include my sister in law, my mom, and my grandma. And within those three generations, and interviewing them, I wanted to decipher what is it that helps shape their character? How is it that Eric Erickson's stage theory can help me figure out these women's character or have a better understanding by that means? Um, yeah. And so when I interviewed all three of them, I noticed a commonality amongst all three women, and this included them not being happy with their significant other. And I asked myself, why is that? But we'll dive a lot deeper into it later on into the presentation. So as I interviewed Dulce Paz, we before I dive into that, I do want to mention that as I interviewed my interviewees, I used a semi structured interview process. I chose that one in specific just because I didn't want to dictate any of the responses that I had. And so it quickly turned on into a bibliography of these participants. I just asked them to tell me a little bit about more about. I guess I asked them to tell me something that makes them uncomfortable to an extent that still gives them room to talk and be a little open with me. Nothing that pushes the boundaries. So yeah. So I interviewed Dulce Paz. She told me about her hectic family distribution. Her immediate family lived in Mexico. She had to live in the U.S. Not had to, but her mom chose for her to, just because she wanted a better education. And as we all know, there's more opportunities here. So she was sent off to the U.S. She was alone, and that for her seemed like it was something that she had to mention. And obviously, um, I couldn't imagine just being in a different state all alone, and no family here, anything like that. So I guess stranger she stayed with, but nonetheless, I gathered that information up, and then she goes on to tell me about how she's with someone that doesn't value her, and someone she's no longer happy with. She tells me that she's with my brother, and obviously, and she's been humiliated, abused, uh, emotionally, obviously. Not obviously, but my goodness, I'm not trying to defend Eric, or which is my brother, and Dulce's situation. I'm just stating the facts just for clarification. Yeah, and I asked her, why is it that you still stay with him? I'm not taking sides or anything like that. Well, I asked myself this afterwards. And so I then later read into an article that is it's called Memories to Heal Adults, and it says something along the lines of a damaged sense of unity and continuity in life is what she has. And why so? Well, she had traumatic experience in the past, and this all includes her childhood, which she doesn't really go into depth. She just shares bits and pieces about it, on top of my brother that damages her sense of unity. And so yeah, it like really baffles me. I use this stage theory to figure out Dulce's character. She's a very insecure, and I don't mean it like in a heartless way, but she's very insecure. And the stage theory that Erickson incorporates is that he helps me figure out and decipher why is it that these people are broken. Well, she's falling into the isolation side of the spectrum, which then causes her to have insecurities within herself, and am I advancing in life? Am I doing the correct thing? And so we go on to the next participant, which includes my mom. And similar to Dulce's story, my mom also finds herself with a man that she's no longer happy with. And again, I'm like, what is up? You ladies, like, you don't have to be with a dude that doesn't make you happy. But that's not the highlight of her story. She then goes on and talks about how her like main goal in life, I guess, is to just work as hard as possible in order to attain that extra money. She wants to be a supervisor at her job. Um, and just work as hard as possible in order to attain that extra money to help my sister with her education. When she's in college, she wouldn't have to worry about paying tuition like I currently am, and she definitely wants to work on that. And so yeah, but it really took, I don't know, it made me question, why is it that, why are you still with him after so long? But then she does go on and tell me that she shouldn't have married on and married on early on, because she had so much more ahead of herself, and that's the advice she gives me. Um, but then again, I'm gonna cite something that I found real interesting, and this was a YouTube video that I've seen on YouTube, and it was someone interviewing Eric Erickson, and they asked him why marriages early on don't work out, and he says, and I quote, some young people marry to find their identity in someone else, but really to be intimate, you have to have a firm identity. In other words, don't try and find yourself in another man, because that won't work out. That's the main like downfall of a lot of these relationships that occur early on in life. Um, but as far as my mom goes, her character is definitely very much so. I guess you can say she's an impulsive person, and she developed this virtue because early on in life, in her childhood, still to this day, she had to take on that role, that woman role, in her household when she was a kid, as being the caregiver for her siblings, and now obviously being the caregiver to us. Not so much me, but you get the gist of it. But then we go on to the next participant, which includes my grandma. Oh boy, at this point, same ordeal goes on. Marries on early on, not, I guess early on, yeah. She marries early on, and the man is not faithful, and she has a bunch of kids with this dude, and she decides to stick on, and just because she's very occupied with these children, right? And so she really has like no time to I guess like find a man for that matter. I don't know. And she still finds herself taking care of her 50-year-old son, um, which I love my grandma so much, but I just wouldn't say she's like, I don't know, and who am I to say, but that she's wise, because she still doesn't acknowledge her worth. I love this woman so much. She doesn't acknowledge her self worth and her role, which she shouldn't have a role. She's a woman. She's a beautiful woman. She shouldn't have to cater, kneel down towards a man, and that's what she did. She doesn't acknowledge it, but beside the point. Yeah, so I noticed a commonality amongst all these three women. Obviously, the one I shared about all these men, but more so the commonality of machismo. And so this one falls true to my grandma. And this was an article over machismo, and I quote, with respect to family planning, machismo is most evident in the use or non-use of condoms. And with this, I'm trying to say that my grandma had a load of kids because she didn't use this birth control.